Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking this time out to listen. Today I titled this message, His Family, Your Family. His family, your family. Some of you all have been in relationships for a very long time, and you have grown accustomed to dealing with your in-laws. You attend family events, you go places with them, and overall, you have a good time with your in-laws. This message is not for you. Those individuals, though, who recognize some things that are not quite right with in-laws, this message is indeed for you. Now, if you are in an already troubled relationship and you're already challenged by your partner, then when you get around his people, you are also going to have your share of blues, okay? It isn't just about the partner. Usually there are some things connected to the family as well. That is why your partner at times behaves like he does. Now, we can overlook it because, well, guess what? You're not around the in-laws that much, and so they're being nice, they're being polite, they're being on their best behavior. But if you were to live with them or spend some time with them, you would see why sometimes your partner behaves like he does. Okay. I came across many individuals in my life through dating whose mothers and fathers were driving the poor guys crazy. So, of course, you pity these people in the beginning because you are just getting to know them. But over time, they start driving you crazy. And so I'm going to get into some of those traits because we do deal with people who have all sorts of personality disorders. And you may be in a relationship with someone whose family issues are also affecting your relationship through the partner that you're with. Okay? So family has all their dramas and they have their toxic stuff. They have their narcissists and their, psychopaths and their bipolar folks and drunks and alcoholics and, all of these things. And the partner who already has his share of personality issues takes on some things that are too big for him and then brings those issues home with him. Okay. Now, if you're just starting a relationship, then you don't see everything, not just yet, but you begin to piece some things together. If you have been with somebody for a long time, you pretty much see the signs early on that, here we go again, another storm. It's not about me. It's really about those folks he's connected to and all of what they're going through. But somehow you get put in to the thick of things and you are a part of the problem, or you are, the person who is responsible for everything. If you're going into an argument, there's the exaggerations that take place. Okay. Now, some things that tend to come up when you have been dealing with someone who has all of this family stuff going on is that, number one, his family's not going to believe that he's at fault. Typically, they're going to take his side. So if you were to even sit down and tell them everything and they would be empathetic or understanding, they would turn right around, go to him and say, I see what you're talking about. She's crazy. Oh, yeah, there's something wrong with her. And then, of course, he's got to give some examples and exaggerate and add some lies to some things, to make it look like he has it together intellectually, that he is better, that he is smarter. And, I just make some mistakes when I pick some of these women. Oh, yeah, because I remember this one and that one. And so the family, they're going through his history and, you're a problem just like all the other ones. But discerning family members and discerning friends, they will see the writing on the wall. They'll see past the smoke screen. No, that man is driving her crazy. That man's driving her crazy, and he drove the other ones crazy too, you see. But what is this crazy? You see, I'm one of those individuals that when I'm around people who tell me things about in-laws and about their partner, I'm saying, okay, well, what exactly do we mean when we say crazy? Okay, so let's delve into some of these character traits that define crazy when it comes to the partner and or his family. Okay, well, one thing we know is that there's a lot of worry with some folks. You know, they worry about things. They seem to be a bit paranoid. You know, they tend to have their issues, right? But they'll project their problems onto you and say that you're the one that reads into everything, and you're the one that, you know, wants to just put all of this pressure on me. And, you know, you're always questioning. Well, it's not a matter of always questioning. There are going to be some things that come up where you do question the family and what are their motives and why is it that, you know, they are saying this, that, and the other. Or, you know, you are going to question why your partner is doing some strange stuff that he hadn't done before, you see. But, oh no, you're paranoid, you're the crazy one, you're the worrywart and all of this, okay? Never ever dismiss your gut feeling. Never ever dismiss those questions that you never got answers to. Because see, if your partner's not going to give you answers and the in-laws are not being straightforward with you, God will. God will. So you take all of those questions and you ask the Lord, Lord, I need some answers as to why this man is so private about things. Why is it that this man's family is treating me differently? Why is it that when I come around, I notice that there is a standoffish kind of feeling? What is he saying to them? You see, and then God will slowly but surely move on somebody's spirit to come to you and say, oh, I just wanted to let you know that he said this and he said that. And please don't tell him that I told you these things, but you might want to make necessary arrangements, you know, to help yourself and help your family out. You see, okay, praise God for those folks. Praise God for those folks. You see, then another trait that you'll notice about some folks is they're the first ones to say, I don't want to have this discussion. I can't stand drama. You driving me up the wall with all of this stuff that you're saying to me. But they're the ones who do things, you see, that make you question their lies, that make you want to, you know, check their accounts and find out who they're talking to, you see. Why is it that they're going around having these pity parties and so forth with different folks, and information's coming back to you from possibly the family or the friends? You see, why is it that there is this unnecessary drama starting to take place that wasn't there before? Or maybe it was always there, but now you're just now seeing it because you got yourself together with God, because, you know, you're praying, because, you know, you are more in tune to some things that's going on a home front, because you're not focused so much on everything outside the home, like your job and your family and your friends. Now you're cluing back into what's happening and you're seeing, wait a minute, something's not adding up. So when you approach the individual, okay, who's known for saying one thing or another, coming up with all sorts of excuses, they're going to try to get out of the conversation. And they're going to do it by either calling you names and frustrating you, walking away from you. I don't want to hear it. You know, the typical types of things. Okay. Now, I'm describing two specific personality disorders as I'm sharing this information with you. And that, of course, would be the narcissist. I'm sure some of you already picked up by now. And also the psychopath. Okay. And these two I'm quite familiar with because, unfortunately, I have grew up around these people and have dated these folks. Okay. And I see some things up close and personal even now. Okay, even now. So God will give us the necessary advice, and he will order our steps accordingly so that we can be able to survive in whatever situation we're in with whomever. Okay. And some of these personalities show up on your job. That's why some people can do better with dealing with folks like this than others, because they have grown up around people like this and they know how to, you know, deal with them. Okay. Now, something else about these individuals is that they like to insult folks. They like to, tease and joke, and it's not really funny what they're saying, or what they're doing. A lot of times it's very critical and it hurts you on the inside. And then they're talking about, you can't take a joke and what's wrong with you and these sorts of things. Okay. There's also some things that they do to try to keep you from doing any further investigation, learning anything more about their family, learning anything more about them. So, they've got to divert your attention elsewhere. Here's a wonderful gift. Here's, a plan for a vacation, or they're not going to do any of that. I'm just going to blame you for the reason why things are the way they are. I'm going to, deny that I ever said something or did something. Some folks would call that gaslighting. It's just a whole bunch of stupid things that they come up with because they don't want you to know who they really are or their family, because the family will show a lot just by the way they behave. And then, of course, expose the person that you're with. So, sometimes these individuals don't even want you coming around the family. Sometimes they are being that way because they genuinely care about you and they don't want you to go through what they went through, So that is nice too. But at the same time, though, when you're dealing with all of this unnecessary confusion and bitterness and upset and jealousy and all of this stuff that these people will put upon you over time, it can drive you crazy. So when you say, sometimes I feel crazy in this relationship, sometimes I feel like, I can't move here, I can't move there, I've given so much, I've done so much. You have every right to feel that way because you're going through not only with this individual, but if you're acquainted with the family too, talking with them and going places with them and all this other stuff, you're going to feel crazy with them as well. And this is why, unfortunately, some people end up in their graves prematurely because you can't fight all those demons by yourself. You can't. And so at some point you go to the Lord and say, Lord, can you please see me through this situation? And you never know how God's going to see you through. He might see you through by setting up an escape plan for you where you're separated. I've seen women get away from men that were bringing them down. Meanwhile, the rest of the relatives, they didn't know what was going on. He seemed like he's all right to me. It was really her. No, a lot of times the one who is putting on the front, acting like he has it all together, he's the messed up one, driving the other one to drink, driving the other one to cheat, driving the other one to go here, there, and everywhere. But see, we'll blame the other person for doing all these things rather than looking at the source. He's got to put on a good act. He's got to act like he has it all together. And some of these ignorant relatives don't see that. They don't see it. They just assume that it's always the woman. Well, she raises her voice. She's teary-eyed. She's out of control. There's something really wrong with her. No, what you have to do is ask, why would she act like that? Why does she feel like she has to check through his things? Why is it that she has to pick up the phone and find out, where he's at? A little too much for your liking. Why does she have to do that? Why does she feel like she has to follow him even? Because there is a history of cheating. There is a history of lying. There is a history of all sorts of things. And if she's not ready to leave her children's father, because many of these women have children with these men, then she is going to do any and everything to at least maintain some degree of control in her household. But those who are quick to judge, those who have not walked in her shoes, these relatives, they don't know, they don't understand, and they're going to go along with whatever their dear brother, their dear cousin, their dear ex says. Okay? I hope that this is resonating with some of you all, because see, you give advice and you counsel and you listen to people and you watch. But sometimes for some folks, they jump to conclusions and they go along with whatever information is readily available to them, and it's usually the difficult one who's bringing all the drama to you. Stop all of the drama for a little bit and say to them, okay, you keep calling me up with this. I'm not calling you up with this. So what's really going on with you? No, I don't want to hear about her, because every time I talk to you, you always telling me what the woman said, what the woman did. And you do that with all the women. You blame all of them. You see, notice the pattern with some of these men. And quit being so quick to side with them. I remember years ago, I looked at how some of my relatives were about their lady friends, okay? And I realized right away, and I was a child, that they were the ones that were at fault. Because the women come over looking really nice, right? They're talking, sweetly. They're very respectable, or respectful. And then you find out later, the woman comes back around. She's got scars on her face. She's looking like a mess. She's drinking right along with them or smoking. What the heck happened between the time when she first entered his life, okay, up to the point where she looks like she's having a nervous breakdown? And so we're going to blame the victim, knowing full well that the brother or the cousin or what have you can't keep a woman, got all sorts of personality issues. You see, I'm just trying to tap some folks on the shoulder once again. Be real mindful of listening to everything and assuming everybody is crazy because your beloved whoever is coming to you with all of this stuff. Even if you don't agree with some things that she said or did, the truth of the matter is that look at his track record. You know him for his track record. You know him for the lies that he tells. You know him for the exaggerations. Lord Jesus. So the other thing is that what do some of these men do? They go back and they tell their relatives that, she's crazy, she's stupid, she's jealous. That's why she acts like that. She's bitter. And once again, I say, why don't you say to them, listen, I don't want to hear about all of what she is. I know who you are. And I know that you got a track record for being jealous, being crazy, being bitter, being ridiculous, being stupid, being abusive, being a bully. Okay. Don't come to me with everything that everybody else does when we know you. And in recent years, you can't keep a job. What's going on with you? And in recent years, we noticed that you're increasing in size. Okay. In recent years, you started with this cheating stuff. Someone needs to call their loved ones' attention to the foolishness. But you see, if you got relatives that are in darkness, they're not going to call you out on your silly stuff, on your stupid stuff, on your evil stuff. They're not going to do it. They're going to keep their mouth shut because they know what they're doing. You see. And the Christian is faced with all of these sorts of things. That's why I continue to expose. Because, you see, it's very easy to go to a church service and we just stick to the word of the Lord and we don't go beyond that, right? Because then it's not offending anyone. It's not convicting anyone, and we're not putting anybody's business out in the street. But if we take the word of the Lord and apply it to our lives and then see the different areas where we are being affected, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, being so drawn away from the Lord, then we can be able to make necessary adjustments to draw near to him and draw others near to him. We're not supposed to be patting the demonic on their back, patting evil on their back, making excuses for children of darkness, covering up for children of darkness, pointing a finger at the wrong folks. Because see, sometimes these relatives, they end up becoming enemies. They become enemies without even knowing it, and not enemies so much toward the children of God, but enemies of God himself, because they're keeping stuff going. knowing full well that the man has his share of issues at home, but then you're going to lay all this other stress upon him. Knowing full well that you're not doing so well in your life, so you're going to go around and start talking to other people about all of your dramas, bringing them down. You're not interested in speaking to the Lord about anything, praying and all that. You see, people have enough issues in relationships, as we very well know, those of us who are in relationships. So when you got these in-laws and best friends and cousins of the cousins and play cousins and all this other stuff, and they're coming in there and they're putting all this mess into a man's mind that they don't have a clue has his share of personality disorders, they don't realize that they're actually aiding the enemy to cause all sorts of confusion in that household. And the way I see it is that I ask the Lord to deal with them because they are enemies. And I ask the Lord that for every curse that is put upon my household, I ask him to reverse those curses. And I also ask the Lord to shut people's mouths up that want to keep bringing all of this drama. I ask that, those that are around me are not tempted to want to go and get involved in other people's mess. I ask that, the Lord will give, friends and relatives and so forth wisdom in their situations, that they will have love in their hearts, all of these sorts of prayers, because you need them when you're dealing with these people in these relationships. Your relationship may not be abusive, but there are some things about it that keep you up at night. Your relationship may be abusive, and there are some things that keep you up at night concerning it. There may be a lot of family influence. This is why when you see that a person early on has issues with their family, that's when you have to say to yourself, enough is enough. I cannot deal with it. I cannot deal with it at this time. There are some problems going on. And then you go to the Lord and you pray about whatever the situation might be. So there are those individuals who are going to tempt you. They're going to, make you feel bad about what you're saying, what you're doing. It hurts when you have a partner that you cannot trust because he or she wants to create this personality with relatives that I'm the one that's together and everybody else isn't. God exposes folks, just give it some time. If you know that you're coming up out of a relationship, continue to walk with the Lord and allow him to order your steps. If you feel like it's getting difficult to remain in a relationship, then definitely seek the necessary support system that can help you financially, mentally, physically, spiritually. You can start with churches. You can start with your local human services department, also known as welfare. You can make necessary phone calls by contacting nonprofit organizations dealing with whatever your situation might be. Emotionally abusive people will take their abuse outside the home. Okay. That's one thing that some of you all need to be reminded of. This isn't just about what he does inside the home, but he's 9 times out of 10 doing it with some other folks. Okay. And they're picking up on some signs. It may not be, of course, really bold and in their faces, but they're picking up on some things. Okay. And if you're able to talk to some folks and they're able to, talk to you without going back and telling him everything, then that's awesome, because if you need to go to court, you can be able to build up your case to show where there's parental, issues going on. There's some emotional instability. There is some smoke screening, gaslighting, all sorts of shady behavior going on. There's some cheating. If you can get pictures, if you can get text messages, all of those things, by all means, you do what you can. So for those of you all, I just continue to keep you in prayer in Jesus' name, that the Lord will continue to guide you. This sort of thing can take place with the Christian who has been exposed to spiritual abuse. Okay, so I do come across those individuals on my pages who will say that I am married to a minister who is emotionally abusive, who's physically abusive. And I can't talk to, members of the church, of course, about these sorts of things because they esteem him. Okay. Then I come across those individuals who they have been victims of spiritual abuse, and then they end up attracting people who are just like the members of the churches and the cults and so forth that they were a part of. And so they feel embarrassed because they came out of a relationship that was spiritually abusive or emotionally or physically, and then they're right back in another one. Okay. So they're looking for, some peace of mind. They're looking for a plan of escape and everything else. Okay, so I'll always say that if you feel like you are in these sorts of situations, you're going to have to get outside help. There are the resources for spiritual abuse, for domestic violence, for dating violence, for men who are even battered in situations like this. And just in case you're listening to this message for someone else, so there are those things. But in this particular message, this is about the individual, primarily being a male, who is doing a lot of stuff to make it seem as if the woman who he is with is, stupid and dumb and crazy, and she doesn't know what she's talking about and all these other things. And the in-laws and family members who go along with all of this sort of stuff, who encourage this sort of stuff. Okay, it is not right, and God sees and he exposes, and he once again will give you a plan of escape if that's what you want. Otherwise, you tolerate a whole lot and you figure out how to work around some folks if you can. Because like I said, it's bad enough having to deal with a person who has their share of issues, and now you've got to deal with family too. That's too much. And too many women, as I've said before, have ended up in their graves prematurely as a result. So don't let it happen to you. There are plenty of other messages similar to this one on my channel. Simply research or put in the search engine emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, parental manipulation, also family and abuse. Okay, you will see things dealing with those topics. I thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Please do check the description box for any information related to you. And as always, to God be the glory.